because the sustaining of some of the abuses gives a reassuring appearance of stability.
Thank you. I want to give each speaker about 2 minutes to kind of rebut, wrap up other thoughts you had that you didn't get a chance to say, and then we'll open it up to questions.
It's hard to figure out what to say in 2 minutes in response to what has been said. I thought I was clear in saying that Obama should not be immune to criticism. And so for me, the real problem is making the criticism within a context of recognizing his accomplishments. And I think what happens with the liberals, and with many of my friends, in my conversations with them, is that the obsession with the failures and the missteps becomes so predominant in the discussion that there's a loss of perspective. So that's what I want. That's my main theme. He's the president that we have to support, I think. And even when he does things that trouble us, I think we have to not dismiss them, but, as I say, place them in a context. But I want to say a number of particular things about what has been said about Obama. Obama was not the candidate of the left when he ran. In fact, Hillary and Edwards were regarded as the candidates on the left. And in fact, he was not for universal health care. I mean, he was for universal health care, but he was not for mandating it. And he was converted to the idea of mandating it. In other words, I think he's a moderate. And that has to be respected. I think he's a moderate with integrity. I think he's a liberal closer to the center than a lot of the liberals who are criticizing him, and that's what he is. On the matter of, let me also point out something about the problem that he faced in becoming president. When Roosevelt became president in 1932, he had 3 years, to think about how to confront the Depression. I think he was invited by Hoover to cooperate with Hoover in trying to do whatever Hoover wanted to do. And he resisted that. He had 2 or 3 years of preparation. Obama became president 2 or 3 months after the crisis, with so much on his plate, with a great deal of inexperience, with intelligence, thoughtfulness, and I think it took him a while to sort things out, and it's still taking him a while to sort things out. And I think there has to be an appreciation for the fact that he has not been in office for 2 years. And the reason that I bring Lyndon Johnson and Roosevelt into the discussion is that Roosevelt and Lincoln in the discussion is that if you actually look at what their performance was at the moment of their performance, it had a lot of the confusion, inconsistency of what we're experiencing in Obama. They have the advantage that we now see them from a distance. And so I think it takes a kind of imagination to go back into the past to see what the constraints of office are. I don't think, just to focus for a moment on Afghanistan, I don't see how Obama had an alternative to the policy that he's following now. He said during the campaign that the war was a war of necessity. Liberals did not criticize him. They were focused on Iraq. The only liberal that I can think of who criticized that view was Kucinich. He comes into power. He sees that Afghanistan is a quagmire. He can't turn around on a dime. He would be discredited. It would be a gross inconsistency. And so what he does, I think, is give the Pentagon the troops that they asked for, and then with the condition that in a year we'll begin to withdraw the troops. He made it very clear in those early speeches that it will not be mission creep, that that Afghanistan will not turn into a Vietnam. Now that has to be tested. We have to see what happens in July of next year. But I think there has to be a generosity in viewing what his predicament is. And I just don't feel that generosity in a lot of the criticism by the liberals.
Okay, thanks. Julian?
Quick points. Lyndon Johnson also made promises about no mission creep with the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, not misusing that authority. Same when Fulbright sells it on the floor. All those arguments. So I'm very skeptical that that deadline, which he imposed just to please Biden, is going to stick. Two, the I Can't Hear You is really interesting because it's phenomenal to see how conservatives have rebuilt the movement after a devastating few years. And they don't wait on the I Can't Hear You. It's an elite kind of driven movement strategy from the Tea Party to the media where they stir up the base and they mobilize people around certain issues. And it's kind of interesting to see the contrast with a wait and see. And we shouldn't take conservatism as totally this natural phenomenon that is just there and emerged. I don't think that's what happened in the last 2 years. And finally, the other part of Obama is this kind of, I think he has a failed media strategy, to be honest. I mean, it's amazing how he doesn't have a sense, or his people don't have a great sense of how to respond to a kind of Fox News, Breitbart-driven news media that's been very effective. At defining him as a socialist, well, he's not a socialist, but they've done it. When I heard that Joe the Plumber and that star, I was like, who's going to believe that about Barack Obama? They did it. Also, I remember, when Obama made his big health care speech and Joe Wilson yelled out, I think it was the same one. There's been a series of moments when someone does something kind of crazy, and the media jumps on, and the administration basically loses the story. And I think there's something there. I mean, I just keep thinking Obama can't actually keep attention on some of the issues, in part because of what the White House is doing and its lack of preparedness for this new media environment that it faces.
On the new media environment, statistics not everyone may be familiar with, Obama has saturated the media in a way far beyond any of his predecessors. In the first 15 months of their respective administrations, George Bush gave 50 interviews. We're saying interviews of some length with print or electrical media. Clinton gave 53. Obama gave 161. No talk show venue, no place to go, town hall, and so on, seems to inhibit him by its smallness. He is inhibited by good taste, which you can't say about the conservatives. And this saturation, I think, has not had the intended effect of making him the most popular and well-liked face in America, as was intended, but just of making him somebody you see and hear all the time. And one can't but get a little tired of it. So I agree with this last point about some fundamental misjudgment about how to use the media. It's odd, because they were very good at using it in the campaign, but the campaign favored them circumstantially for other reasons that we can get into. On Afghanistan, Obama did corner himself to some extent by saying that Iraq was the right war, that was the wrong war, that Bush had made the war against terror deviate from its proper course, that Iraq was the wrong war and was a distraction, but Afghanistan was the right war. But all those months he was saying it, and that he did repeat that phrase the way I said he should repeat phrases, about as much as he's repeated any phrase, unfortunately. While he was repeating it, the war was getting worse. And when he came in at this moment of maximum revulsion from Bush and Cheney, I should say political reflex, political instinct would have told someone who wanted to do it that now is the time to stand back and say, we made a horrible and costly mistake, costly blood and treasure in Iraq. I want to make absolutely sure we don't do it in Afghanistan. Now, the long drawn-out review that he held on Afghanistan policy, after already sending in new troops at the very first couple of months of his administration, he already sent in 30,000. He was already following Petraeus's cues. The supposed agonizing reappraisal really was a foregone